panelists, and everybody who's made it to our third and final roundtable, right? Final for this year at the very least. So over the past few months, we've hosted two powerful conversations. First, we looked at accelerating digital transformation in Southern Africa. Our second was on reimagining healthcare. And today's discussion marks the third and final part of our three-part series, where we're now turning our focus to education in Africa, reimagining it anyhow. So we're going to talk about how we can harness emerging tech, innovative funding models, and employment pathways in that process. So all of these dialogues that we've had over the past while, including today's, they are building blocks towards our upcoming summit on 19 November. So we're going to thread all of them into a global conversation. So we greatly appreciate your availability, panelists, and also everybody who's made it to the conversation. So since you all have kind of introduced yourselves, what I would like us to then do, after I quickly run through the housekeeping rules, is that you will give me in 2 to 4 minutes, panelists, your, I suppose, initial thoughts on any aspects, right, of reimagining education. It doesn't necessarily have to speak to Africa. What I would like to know is, or like everybody to know, is what that looks like, where you're at, and then we'll let the conversation kind of evolve from that point, okay? So, housekeeping. All participants, as you enter, I will ask that you stay muted until it's your turn to speak. I will do the same. So for the panelists, you don't necessarily have to wait for me to call on you to speak. You're welcome to just kind of unmute yourself and talk. For everybody on the line, you're welcome to keep your video on just to make it a warmer engagement, right? It would be nice to see your faces, but don't have destructive backgrounds. And then for engagement, you're welcome to use the chat and ask questions. If you get disconnected, you should be able to rejoin using the same link. If you're experiencing some technical challenges, you can chat to Christiana. Well, she has the handle that says AfriDES. She'll sort you out. You can message her directly. Then, because we want to make it interactive as much as possible in the short space of time that we have, and I'll just kind of play it by ear, but I will maybe at some point pose the questions that are asked in the chat, and maybe even at some point get somebody to unmute themselves and pose a question to any of you panelists, or you will all have a turn to answer it. We'll just see how it goes. That's pretty much it. So also, I think finally, we appreciate your time, everybody. So let's keep the discussion focused and within the allocated schedule. The idea is to engage as much as possible, right? So let's do that. Let's really do that. And I don't want to talk too much because we want to hear from y'all, right? So I'm now going to ask. Sorry about that, everybody. This is different. Thank you, Christy.
Yeah.
Tom, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pick up where I left off, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Speaking about Coolidge's SAT, ACT prep, a prospective college student can get on and take practice SAT, ACT questions. They can take a few at a time. They can take the entire test. Red flags test questions that they're having problems with. So thanks to Coolidge, instead of getting the 900-page SAT prep book, you all have it at your fingertips through the miracle of digital technology. Coolidge also is equipped with an essay genie tool that obviously will not write your essay for you, but it will pose questions to you, helping you find your own voice and helping you begin an essay that speaks about you and your character and why you deserve to be in a specific college. SAT has a chatbot, Ollie, that can answer any of your questions at any given time about prospective colleges that you're looking at. SAT is also equipped with a task board that keeps the college applicant on task and keeps up with deadlines and tasks that are related to the application process that are to be turned in. Not only can the prospective student see that task board, but so can his or her parents, so can his or her counselor, if they're equipped with a counselor. And last but not least, Coolidge is equipped with live face-to-face counselors that can help walk through the process, the application process with any student, which I can't imagine doing it without a counselor. So when you look at the Coolidge product, it absolutely serves the underserved because there are so many students in Africa and all over the world that do not have access to college counselors. And I can't imagine how to decipher between 6,000 American colleges without that. Coolidge provides all of that, and as I said, it's all in one ecosystem. So I think it absolutely is relevant to the discussion we're having today. Once again, I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm anxious to hear what all my esteemed colleagues have to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. David, do you want to go next?
Sure. I was enjoying the music that was being played. So I'll start off by saying, what is education, right? What is education and why is it there? And I think it's important to sometimes take a step back, right? Education mainly serves so that we can communicate, so that we can progress, but mainly it's preparing people for jobs, right? And yeah, I wrote a book. I'm not going to plug the book. It's called The Business of the Metaverse. But one of the chapters in it was looking at effectively the impact of the metaverse on people, right? And one of the use cases was education. And one of the things that is possible now with online, with augmented reality, and with AI, is it removes geography, right? So when you talk about education, we should not be confining ourselves to education where you go to a physical building, right? I think we've already surpassed that informally, but formally, you go to a college, you will attend classes with a teacher, and you will get a certificate at the end, right? I think things have moved on with the metaverse, with online, with augmented reality and virtual reality, with communications. I'm from a communication company. Like 5G and high bandwidth internet, we can communicate as we are now from any location, right? So one of the key features of the metaverse is it removes geography. Why is that important for education? It means essentially that, we can all get a Harvard education, right? Without having to go to the US and attend a physical campus, right? You have you have the ability to have infinite classes or attend infinite classes. I think another thing, I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as I can. AI robots will change the way we work. So will AI, right? So the work that we're being educated for is going to change, right? I see now when I see my children going to school, I'm thinking, well, that job, why do you need that? That's going to be done by AI. Why do you need that? That job will be done by a robot. So part of imagining education is trying to imagine where the world's going to be in 10, 15 years. 10, 15 years in this age we're in, the digital age, is a long time. And trying to get the skills that will be required to put Africa on the map, at that time frame. A key thing is how education can be delivered, right? So you don't need to attend. But the key thing is, I remember when I was studying, you had to go to a library, right, to get the book. If you didn't get the book, you couldn't do the homework, you failed. Now, every child, right, every person attending education can have an AI tutor, can have unlimited resources, can have expertise. Some of us go onto YouTube, but AI is now making access to education so much easier, right? So I think, and of course, the interaction point is now the mobile phone. In the future, it will be agents. So what I'm trying to say is, the future of education is getting with the times, right? And getting with where things are going to be in the future. And technology is absolutely critical, and it's an opportunity, right? There's threats coming because AI robots and AI will take a lot of the jobs that are currently low-paid jobs done in Africa. because you move from a low wage economy to a capital intensive economy. But the same things can also accelerate education, right, and access to it. So I'll stop. I think I was over 3 minutes.
Thank you, David. Prof. Nicholas? You're on mute, Prof.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, all right, thank you. Yeah, so reimagining education from my own context. The world is changing. I know the way we do things has changed, occasioned by technology. And so we are right now in a digital economy, and we need digital skills, to thrive, okay, because these are the skills for the future. Now, within the context of Nigeria, we have, for example, the universities. The National Bureau of Statistics has it that every year, Nigerian universities churn out 4 million graduates, 4 million graduates every year. And out of these 4 million graduates, only 200,000 are employable. Only 200,000 are employable. 3.8 million do not have employability skills. And now, why is it so? The training ab initio they're having in the universities will not equip them for the jobs of the future. Why? Because they are not being exposed to the requisite knowledge and skills. Okay, knowledge and skills, these are very, very key, very important. Okay, and so that gap is there. It's not as if the jobs are not there. The jobs are there, but then the graduates do not have the requisite skills, employability skills. That's where the problem is. So reimagining education for me is equipping those graduate students with skills, industry-ready skills, okay? Industry-ready skills that could give them the jobs. The jobs are there, but with what we have right now, with the kind of training we are putting the students through, they are not employable. And so that's why we have this intervention for us at the International Center for Emerging Technology. It's a kind of intervention. What we do there is to train students with the inborn skills, that is the industry-ready skills, okay, for the jobs of the digital economy. Okay, that's what we have programs on artificial intelligence, we have programs on blockchain technology. These programs infuse students with skills that are needed in the industry at the moment. As a matter of fact, we're having some industry immersion with our students. We have partnerships with the industry. They go there for sometimes 6 months, and then they learn the skills for the future, okay, and then they come back, and then we continue with the academic side. And then when they graduate, as a matter of fact, a survey was conducted in Nigeria 2 or 3 years ago, looking at the employability rates of Nigerian graduates, and our own center, our own university was found to be amongst the top 4 universities that, whose graduates gain employment, that have employability skills because of what we are doing. It's more or less like an incubation center, more or less. We train the students, we give them projects, okay? They do hands-on training and project-based research. So at the end of the day, they graduate with the required skills and knowledge. So for me, reimagining education is preparing them, creating a talent pipeline that would take on the jobs of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Nikhil, please go ahead.
Thank you for everyone's thoughts so far, and I'm really glad to be here today and learn from a lot of other people and share my thoughts. So coming to this aspect, like when we talk about reimagining education, I primarily see like 3 priorities. I would say the first one is access. Technology and AI now give us the ability to scale the quality learning in different ways, like as we couldn't before in general. Like now that, as one of the panelists was also saying that, uh, I think it was David, he was saying like AI definitely gives us more leverage to learn something, or like if there's something is not really available at point at that at specific time. So with AI tutors or like adaptive platforms, the mobile learning can definitely reach students in rural and also the undeserved communities, so that the opportunities are not really uh, just going to somewhere like where there is more access. So it's just not defined by geography as well. So I would say the next most priority would be the affordability. So I see like even coming from the background where I am, and also like where I've seen a lot of people, or like where a lot of other students who I've interacted with, like when I've been working with a lot of students, the affordability is a bigger thing, because students out of education isn't just about the tuition bill, but also there are like smaller things like paying for the exams, and also like the school materials or the internet access or the computer access. All these things are really much limited to a lot of rural areas or like undeserved people. So like I've already seen like Africa already has something like pay as you learn kind of models like micro loans, which helps in like different I would say like different sectors. But I think can definitely use this I would say like micro loans kind of concept, so that it can be adopted for education, so they can make it more, I would say like access both more sustainable and also inclusive. So I mean it's been done at different countries and different places, and it's just that more about how well we can expand it and how well we can get into the people so they are aware that something like this exists. So that is more important. And the third one is more of employability. So education, I would say like must prepare the whoever is learning, not just for today's jobs. I would say just both for the future in both digital, and also making sure that how the green economies also work. So it has to be people has to be educated in both ways. So that means just more about being moving beyond just theory and giving the students a bit more practical experience. It can be through mentorship or conducting some hackathons if it is related to some projects, or so that we just tell them like how the real aspects work, so that it builds the confidence, and also they can directly apply their skills to the real world capabilities. So once they, even it can be a job, or they can start, they can have their own idea, or like they can have their own startup idea or something. So for that they need to have some practical knowledge in general. Altogether, for me, the heart of this work is just not only about technology, but also about enabling the people, and also giving learners the tools, and also the confidence to lead. So as we reimagine the education, I would say it's just not about the jobs again. So it's just more about the hope, dignity, and also the chance of for every learner to live and also give back to the community.
Thank you for that, Emmanuel.
Oh, thank you very much. And I also just want to echo the previous speakers. Reimagining education in Africa. So before we even start imagining, I would like to take us back exactly what is the previous state, what the current state, how we all started. I would like to divide it in two different. We have the pre-colonial plus the post one. Previously, before colonialism, we had griots who tell stories and people learn numeracy, cooking, hunting, and all that. After the post colonial, we adopted the European. And I would like to use one of the African proverbs. I like using it. They say when the rhythm changes, the dancer should also change the dance, the moves. But it seems like we're still dancing to the same tune. So we're still more or like a chalk and talk what has been happening. And I know my colleagues are focusing a lot on only higher level education. So I would like also to go back to the base, to the primary schools, secondary schools, and all that. According to one of the UNESCO's report, we have around about 650,000 schools, right? So now out of the 650,000 schools we have in Africa, 450 do not have electricity. So can you just imagine already what has been affected? I've been to different setups like in rural, different countries in Africa, like South Sudan and all this. I've seen with my eye what exactly is happening there. Okay, and one of the key as well that the previous speaker has mentioned, the previous colleague, is employability. Okay, so now what happens is we produce around 12 million graduates every year, but out of the 12 million that we produce, the formal job that they can only get, it's 3 million. What happens to the 9? So basically, we are still dancing to the same tune, producing every 9 million. I know my previous colleague spoke about Nigeria, but I want to talk about Africa in general. So basically, 9 million every year going to the street. What does this do to the previous people, the people that have never even enrolled to school? Basically, there's no, they will not see it as a whole. So again, echoing my previous colleagues, we need to adopt a different system where we talk about entrepreneurship, teach students on how to be self-dependent, not to depend on government. You know, we're talking about AI now, but we're still very much divided. It's kind of worrisome, the future, and we will definitely be digitally colonized again because we do not have our own data, but that's something we'll talk later again. Yeah, this is my view on reimagining education in Africa. Yeah.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Wow. So you've all kind of gone everywhere.
Yeah.
Emerging technologies, funding models, employability, inclusion. Maybe what we should do is figure out what's the most pertinent one and zoom in on that one, right? Because I don't know that it'll be beneficial for us to try to solve for all of it, because
sorry, Tebogo, but you know, education and technology are critical, right? There's no in between. The world that people are being educated for is changing, right? And the jobs they're being educated for are changing. And a failure now, and I think it was a really critical point Emmanuel made about infrastructure, right? Because in order to access this new digital world where most of the economy is now, you need to have electricity, you need to have access to the internet, you need to have a digital identity and credentials that will allow you to be trusted to participate in the digital economy. And all of these things are absolutely critical for people to use the education to have digital business, right? To participate in the digital economy as employees or businesses. However, I go back to the point, right? Why do people go to a school building? You don't need to go to a school building to get educated. You don't need a certificate to be educated. How many computer programmers? I know a lot of people who have technology startups, right? They will employ anybody from any location who has the skills and pay them, right? So the idea that you need to, I'm not saying go do away with school buildings, but what I'm saying is you can educate yourself if you have access to the internet and online materials and to AI. You can get knowledge that makes you employable. And I think that's absolutely critical, right? But there are other things when you talk about education and infrastructure, because there are things like DeepIn, so decentralized public infrastructure networks and ways you can raise money that can help build that infrastructure. But for me, I think the headline point I want to make, coming from a telco, as we know, one of the biggest success stories has been 8 billion mobile phones in operations. So there's a telco infrastructure in every country, including developing countries. But one of the key things is going to be education and the propensity to which Africa can adopt technology, especially AI, will lead directly to the success of that education in transforming people for employment opportunities and business opportunities.
Tebogo, could I say something? What we're seeing here, that education is not a one size fits all type of deal. Emmanuel was talking, Nicholas was talking about technical skills. David, I certainly agree with David that you do not have to attend college physically to get a good degree. Some kids would thrive off that. Some kids would thrive sitting in a chair and staying on the internet. There's no one. It's a different solution for each kid. But to me, the issue is when we're talking about schools in Africa that don't have power, the issue is how do we get the tools to them so they at least have a choice to see which direction they want to go in. To me, that's the most daunting problem. I think we all agree that as Nikhil said, education gives hope. Any kind of education, be it on college, online, technical trade, whatever. But how do we get the access to the tools to the underserved? To me, that's the question. And until we can reach those students, this is all just talk.
Yeah, let me comment. Can I make a point, Sabuka? Yeah, what's the essence of education to start with? Education is meant to make people useful members of their society. Okay, that's the essence of education, to make them to contribute to the social and economic development of society. Yeah, right now we have gone beyond the physical structure called a school, a physical building, a brick and mortar. Yeah, education transcends those boundaries. So you could, you know, learn anything using your digital devices. But the challenge with that kind of education, so to speak, is that it is not structured. So there is need for some kind of structuring of what the learners would learn. That's a seeming limitation with just having access to the content on the internet, because everything that everyone needs to know in school, it's on the internet. What the school does, the school, by school now, I mean the ones with the physical walls, bricks and mortar, is that they organize the content into a curriculum, okay, into what is called a curriculum. And then there is a prerequisite, and then there are follow-up courses, what comes before the other. But then I can say that pretty much of that is also happening now in the online space, because education now seems to be personalized and then is self-paced, looking at what content is being made available through, AI and other um, interventions. And so the point I'm making here is that those content can be organized and then personalized. And so people learn at their own pace. And then people, it's it's a goal driven, purpose driven. And so we will no longer have to have people go to school for 4 years to be able to earn a definite skill, when you can, with 1 month, learn those skills on your digital media, and then you are able to practice that skill. So I think for me, the most important thing now is education now is skills driven. If you are able to acquire those skills and then you learn at your own pace, I think that suffices.
That's great. I just have a point to add on. So for me, one thing that is equally important is the people-to-people engagement. So I would say like those who already have access to quality education and knowledge, it could be either like students, professionals, or educators. So I would say like should spend time with the undeserved communities. So not just to teach but I would say like to listen, to understand the real challenges and then see the ways that we can help them. So the kind of engagement can be like voluntary, or it can be through some student-led communities, or it can be through the government-led initiatives. It can be anything, but it's more about the engagement of in-person that gives a different feel altogether. So when those who are well equipped can just walk alongside with who are really struggling, can definitely create some, I would say like more of like a bit of empathy or trust, and can definitely have a better understanding what exactly they are going through, which ideally I would say like if we just throw in a policy saying that, hey, we want to do this from the government perspective, but nothing is really being done. It doesn't really help anyone. So it's more about it has to come from voluntary from the people or any other community driven aspect. So I'd say like end of it, it's I mean, like when we say to reach to the undeserved communities and tell them, hey, this is what we have or something like that. It's not just about to show them what we have. It's just showing them what they can also have and how they can also lead their life in general.
Mm. Mhm.
Thank you. Emmanuel, do you want to say something or?
No, that's fine. I will just repeat exactly what because
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. So there's several things that can be done, and yeah, like from what I'm picking up in what you all are saying. For the underserved, right, which is obviously a big thing in the African context. How do we, through funding models, I don't know, Nikhil, you mentioned policies, right, where it's something that's actually tabled as part of how the country is run. Like what ways can we ensure that there's inclusivity? Because for one, we're saying it's gonna change whether we like it or not. But we want to ensure that there's inclusivity in that change, and there's serving the underserved, right? So how do we get around that?
Uh, sure. So I was just talking about I mean it's like a very small aspect I just put in like when I was talking. I was talking about more of like a pay as you learn model kind of thing, so which can definitely reduce that burden from the students if it is not really being adopted well in Africa at this point. So students or the families can just pay as little just upfront when they are really taking a loan for the education. And so that they can confidently have that motivation to study rather than thinking about if they are struggling with something or if any family is struggling with something. So instead of just thinking about how to repay that loan at that point, it can still motivate them to not really have any different mindset at that point. They can just keep learning, they can secure a job, they can build something bigger, they can do something and not really worry at that point. So with pay as you learn, I feel like students from undeserved areas just don't really need to carry that heavy debt. But they can repay gradually once they start earning or once they are done with their education or like whatever is the better policy that has to put in so that it's not really giving a too much of struggle towards education perspectives.
Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
maybe I will also want to say something about promoting inclusion and equity.
Go ahead, Prof.
Yes, so perhaps I want to talk about promoting equity and inclusion. You see, part of the challenges we have in Africa is underfunding of education, okay? Um, people in the rural areas are underserved, they are marginalized, and better access goes to those in the cities. So perhaps if there's increased funding, it can support initiatives that will provide access to education for the disadvantaged and the marginalized groups. And this ensures that everyone has an opportunity to learn, and one of the ways that can happen is that technology could be leveraged to promote equality in education by expanding access. That helps to expand access, and it bridges the digital divide. And so that brings me to the second point, yeah, of addressing the digital divide, because disparities in access to technology, for example, internet connectivity and digital skills, can exacerbate existing inequalities. So leaving out some learners, particularly those from the resource poor areas, uh, they are left behind. But then addressing these from resource poor areas, through the efforts of the government and educational institutions, private stakeholders, and investment in digital infrastructure, this can be done. And one way to do this is for government to maybe incentivize or create an environment that would help for affordability of devices, because those digital devices for now, they are quite expensive. And so if the government can come in and subsidize devices so that they can be affordable, and then to expand internet connectivity to rural areas and to those marginalized communities. That would be useful because it will ensure equitable access to technology enhanced learning. And that can also bolster, teacher training capacity. There is also need to invest in education so that there will be improvement in quality of teaching and learning. Okay, because most teachers, as we speak, do not have those digital skills, and they can't even afford it. And so, increased funding would empower them to have access to those digital skills, and I think that would expand or open up the space, for inclusion of those in the disadvantaged. Yes.
Yeah, I think I think the issue of inclusion is critical. Again, coming from the mobile phone industry, I think one of the success stories from the early 1990s to now has been 8 billion mobile phones, and almost everyone in the world who can have a phone has one, right? Not smartphones, but they have access to communications. So I think that medium, because of the penetration, over 90% population penetration, needs to be taken advantage of, right? Because you may not have electricity, but people will have a mobile phone generally. There are, as I said, new ways of financing, right? One of the key things that sort of reaches out to me here is if you're starting a business, you need to have a pitch deck. That pitch deck needs to have a mission, a vision, objectives. I think what we're crying out for here is some sort of direction, right? Some sort of strategy, some sort of policy that comes from that, which gets in the right direction. I repeat the points I made earlier. The jobs that we were educating for, the curriculum that we're following is going to be outdated, right, in 5 to 10 years, right? Those skills are not going to be needed. They're not going to get people a job. So straight away, I think someone needs to do a SWOT analysis, strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, threats of where we're going. And they need to understand what are the core skills that the population needs to have. And then to follow the points that have been made, there needs to be investment in that, right? Because as the population gets more successful, so do the tax revenues that come in, right? Which is how the GDP grows and how spending happens. I think, if you look at where we are now, you're waiting on the government to do it. I think the government need to have policy. The governments need to have policy. They need to have a strategy. They need to realize where this is going. And it's not a question of copying the rich countries. The rich countries are going through the same transformation that needs to happen in developing countries. But for me, that direction is critical. And once the direction is there and people can see the benefits of it, then there are ways of funding. Banks can fund. You have decentralized public infrastructure networks, which is a new form of public infrastructure, tokenized funding. So that can happen. But what I don't hear, and I keep talking about where this is going, is a vision, right? Without a vision, we're going nowhere, right? AI robots will be here in 5 years. AI agents are here. We are in the AI age. We're in the digital age. The metaverse is here. We have Web3, Bitcoin, tokens. I don't hear any of that, right? But that's where the world's going. So unless the vision is there, what are you educating people?
Yeah. And maybe if I can just, can I? Yeah, may I? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, just also to contribute to that particular topic as well. So what I really think from my personal view and experiences, this is more of a governance issue. Normally governments do have budgets that is presented every year. So each and every sector receives a portion. And years after years, there are complaints of technologies issues. We know what infrastructures are lacking. We know what schools do not have chairs or computers, we do know exactly. So in most of the time, countries do borrow money to fill the gap. And in most cases as well, we do have partners, because I'm actually from the health side. I'll talk, for example, the likes of USAID and UN agencies, UNESCO and all this. There's always funds that they always come and drop in just to fill the gap. But it's all about the priorities that the governments want to focus on. We have what we call the pestle analysis, right? We have the SWOT, the pestle, basically like talks about the political, economical, like framework and all this. But often they ignore the T, which is the technological part. They really think it's not necessary. So my previous colleague also touched on framework and strategies. I'll give you a very clear example. Yesterday, I was looking at some of the strategies for a technical group for the AI. We realized most of the countries in Africa still do not have strategies. Basically, if you don't have a strategy when it comes to AI, basically you're ruling a country without a constitution. I can come and do anything. I remember one of the talks I had, someone came, oh, what if I want to come and build a data center without compliance? Like, you can come build because we don't have any guideline. We don't have anything. I jokingly say that because we have nothing that guides us. You know, priority mainly government does not really put on focus on education, infrastructure. No, there's some other stuff they prioritize. So often what happens is when you have, let's say in education sector, in health sector, we have a group called the technical working group, where you have the stakeholders working, supporting whatever line ministry, either education or health, they coming together where each and every one will stipulate or specify their functions. Okay, so they don't step on each and every each toes, or where they also do not have to duplicate work, and also where the sharing of resources is very important. Like what my colleagues also mentioned that know about equipment. Equipments are really cheap. You find whereby different partners that are not sitting in technical working group, let's say working in one environment, one is supporting one program, they bought equipment, another one supporting one program, but different equipment, instead of just using sharing resources. So one of the issues, I would say, okay, funding is scarce, but we do get funds from donors. We do duplicate a lot of works. That's why most of the funds does not really go where it's supposed to be used for, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for that. So there's a comment / question in the chat that talks about how only government schools would benefit from loans or public sector interventions, but what about private schools, right? And I suppose related to that, another comment says, the problem is, will these changes be approved in government once they're tabled, right? It might be like a whole roller coaster. So what could, if we're talking private sector, and part of what we also want to do, I suppose, as in these conversations is foster entrepreneurship, right? Like we don't want to wait for government to come and save us. What can we do in the meantime from a private perspective? And I'm imagining that at some point, perhaps there would be enough sway, to then get public-private partnerships going, if we and the private are doing enough in that direction. Mohammed, hey, welcome.
Hey, sorry for being late. Yes, so I'm playing with different time zones. So yeah, I'm sorry about it. So, yes, so thank you very much for letting me in. I'm a latecomer to the class. Yeah.
That's okay. I don't know if you heard the question I just posed. In fact, I'm seeing that we're 6 minutes. 6 minutes to when we should stop, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask that I don't know if you got the question. I'm going to ask that you all kind of answer my question and include your closing remarks as part of
Sure.
that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, one of the things, I've been into the consulting and education space for 20 plus years, almost 25 years. So, right from the policy making, of establishing an educational framework for formal and non-formal education. But the most exciting part is building an ecosystem around it through digital transformation as well. So, rather than talking a lot about it, I would talk about some of the engagements which we are doing currently, which would answer the question as well, including the African and the Europe market, which we are working on. So basically, what we see is the digital transformation, especially for the students, when they come out of the university, they would get probably a decent job, right? But what we are doing right now is gearing them up with all the key elements of AI, because they understand how to build an AI strategy or how to work on an AI risk management or a project or program management. And they understand this faster than somebody like me, who's an old school guy and who's got 20 years experience. So they work in the executive office of strategy, or the project management office, or in the policy office. And instead of joining in as a $30,000 per annum kind of a job, they would probably jump into a $60,000 or $70,000 per annum kind of a job, right? So instead of joining in as an intern, during the studies itself, they would get to do international certifications, from the college or the university. But after that, they would also get to be a part of real world projects, so that they're not saying that, okay, I know how it works, but I have worked on such projects with real world. So it could be an agentic AI project. It could be a natural language or an LLM kind of a project. But end of the day, the student would be so confident to walk into any office and say that, okay, hey, you know what, I can be a powerhouse with your experience and expertise. I have the speed and consistency, or I have the speed and agility, which, yeah, so, right from prompt engineering and other elements of the whole exercise, right? So it's more like, how do you enable the advanced technologies, embedding into the old way of learning curriculum? And how do you enable learning by doing for the university students, which we do as a program of 100 hours, and where they get to learn for the first 40 hours, and the next 60 hours, they get to practice what they've learned. And then they'll raise their flag and say that, okay, hey, I'm ready for work. And not just for your basic $30,000, it could be $100,000 kind of an engagement, So because they have all the gears, what it requires them to have, right? So we work with a lot of universities in the UK as well as in Middle East, and a lot of discussions are going on in Africa as well. So yeah, so that's just a high level thought from my side, So I can add two more lines if I have more time, but I'll leave it to you. So
we'll
I would
allow
say,
yeah, 2 more lines.
Yeah, so I would say it just about the pragmatic approach, because I remember delivering a session for 5 days, which is called Certified AI Manager, to a group of students who's been learning postgraduate AI program for 2 years, right? So, and after 5 days, they comes back and tells us saying that, hey, you know what, in the last 2 years, we have not experienced a real world project like this, because during the classroom, we create that, live business cases, build AI strategy, and work on the risks and everything else. So what I would say is that it is that ability to participate and deliver projects as part of the learning exercise, rather than being theoretical. And so I get 99.99 based on my mark sheets or my marks card. But end of the day, when I actually practice it, the application of what's been learned is the key to success, right? So I think that's what is the power. we all can bring into table because we see these real world problems day in, day out. So, if something can be done, we can teach these kids to apply what they've learned using all the failures we have had. That's the most exciting thing. And then all the successful projects we've had. And plus, if you've got a lot of exciting customers, please make sure that you talk to them saying that, okay, I've got this group of 10 universities where I'm working with. What skills are you thinking of employing in the next 5 years? Right? I can get that. It's like I'm taking the order before I pass it on to my kitchen, right? So, so I'm getting those skills and resources ready with pragmatic application skills, so, I would say that is just exciting. It is not just about the sound of excitement. We've been living it since 2013, way before everybody started thinking of AI and advanced technology started. So this is very, very successful in practice. I would love to have more, chats and discussions around it when the time allows. So that's all I have to say. I don't want to, take up the whole space, right? So that's what I would say. It's just about getting started, and especially I've just one line to all the universities and the parents and the students is simply, unless until you start practicing what you have learned, you don't really know how it's going to look like. Right? ChatGPT looks exciting, but when you actually solve a problem with ChatGPT, that's when it becomes more powerful, right? So yeah. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
In no particular order, gentlemen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I can jump in. I'll closing remark, right? I'll try to do closing remarks, but touching also on employability. Yeah, so I'll have to say that 11 years ago, that's when I developed my first AI system, hand recognition using neural networks. And I know what I face is what a lot of youngsters, a lot of what graduates are facing, frustration, because no support, no funding, no infrastructures in the country that will support that, and because people still did not understand. I jokingly say, no, I could have been Elon Musk by now if I had all the support, because I had the item, but there was really no support. And after graduation, I had to park the project and started focusing on what I love doing, health information systems. But now when AI became a topic, I started merging AI in all the systems that we do. So now, what I wanted to say, the mistakes that most of the schools' education systems, the method that we're using, are somehow wrong. So what I've learned in real life that I actually suggest we start implementing is how to teach students how to respond to proposed RFPs, for example, respond for proposal. There's a proposal, they sit down, they write, they know how to apply. Because countries, government will really frustrate you. An example again, most of the countries don't have AI, for example, strategies. And across, I would say 80% of African countries, they'll tell you like, no, the data policy is public data should not be hosted in any cloud or any enterprise that is not within the country or within the government institution. But you go around and find out who has a data center. No one has a data center. Okay, you go around, you have space with me, they don't have space for you. That will really frustrate you. What I just want to encourage is all people is to say, okay, if your country doesn't serve you, you can do what my other colleagues say. You start working remotely, look for projects outside the country. You don't necessarily need to be confined to your country where the rules do not apply, do not work for you. So one of the things, just to highlight again, need to learn how to create entrepreneur skill set, how to respond to uh, proposals, how to write their own proposal, because there's a lot of funding in this world, so to say. There's a lot of funding. This is how basically we survive our day-to-day. We respond to proposal, we create partnership, and more importantly, is consortiums. So most of the case, you might not have the skills that you need, but if you're able to identify a proposal or a job, a project that needs to be done, you can call one of the companies. Like we mainly form consortium with international companies. So the requirement might be, look, you need to have an ISO. If I don't have an ISO, I find out, we partner, we share the profit. This is how we should start thinking about in schools, teach students how to use their own minds, their own skills, not to be dependent, because it's already also recorded like 1 out of 4 people, starting from 2025, you find an unemployed, 1 out of 4. This is for low income countries, but for higher or middle, it's normally 34%. So if you are 8 here, by next year, 2 probably will not be employed. So this is what the figures are already telling us. So we don't need to be having that mindset, oh, I'm graduating to get employed, but rather to create employment. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm to say something, just one line, my closing line would be along the lines of collaborations, so that we could adopt innovations in education. So collaborative frameworks are needed to scale education in Africa. So the frameworks should be organized around leveraging technology platforms, innovative financing, and that will come from public-private partnerships, and strengthening local capacity through initiatives like ISET, what we're doing, and collaborative professional development of teachers. That's for me. That's just that line.
I'll expand on that in my closing remarks. Nicholas is absolutely right. We've determined here today that education comes in many forms, but it all requires tools, and tools require funding. And in a perfect world, government would fund that, local or national governments will fund that, but it's not a perfect world. So whether it's corporate sponsorships or private partnerships, we have to think outside the box on that, because until we get funding and can get access to all the tools to the schools, then it's going to be hard to move forward. And I agree with what David says. Education is the key. The better educated our youth are, then the better our society is. Whether it's business, entrepreneurship, you name it. But the key starts when they're young, and starts with education. And to get education, it does take funding. So it's not an ideal world, but the stakes are high, and it's definitely worth thinking outside the box. Because I'm like Muhammad. I'm an old school. I'm a classroom teacher, and there is nothing more heartbreaking than a student who doesn't have the means but has the ability, that wants to move forward with his or her life, but they can't. And it shouldn't happen, but it does, and it's heartbreaking. So whatever we can do to serve the underserved, we have to be outside the box, and we have to make that happen, because the stakes are just too high. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed listening and speaking with all of you.
Thank you. I'll go next. I have to drop for another meeting. Sorry about that. For me, I just want to give a short closing thought. Like, I mean, as we were just discussing about reimagining education, I think it's not just about one solution. It has to be, again, as David or like Tom or like Professor Nicholas or like Emmanuel, everyone was saying, we have to bring in technology, policy, and people together to just open doors. I would say like that have been closed in different ways for different people. So it's more about how well we can align on all these different pieces. We can definitely build systems that can truly prepare who wants to learn and also wants the communities to grow. And I just like this quote in general. So if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. So it's always have to be anything. Like even if I go to a movie, I don't really enjoy going to a movie just being right. So I want someone for company. So in general, like for anything, I feel it's always good to go with a group and help the community and give back to the community at the same time, learn from the community. So that would be my closing thought. And I'm really glad that I'm part of this roundtable today. I really enjoyed it. And thank you so much. I have to drop now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I need to drop as well, but I just like to say that what an exciting time. What an exciting time we're in. In this move to the AI economy. We have Web3, fintech, internet, 5G, autonomous vehicles, IoT. It's an exciting time in the world, right? But I think the challenge for Africa, as my fellow participants have been saying, is to get the tools to participate in that world. One of them is education, but to get the education, you need the infrastructure. To get the infrastructure, you need the investment. To get the investment, you need a strategy, and you need a vision, and you need to paint the bigger picture of where this is going to take us and what the benefits are going to be. And that is what I think is lacking. Nothing's going to happen unless that happens first. So and I don't think a vision necessarily has to start with government. It can start with every one of us, right? There's so much talent I'm hearing even on this forum here. And I would say, for the people who organize the conference, let's try and get that vision paper, because it is a really exciting time. And technology can be an empowerer, but it can also be something that can take away a lot of opportunity and make things worse if you don't embrace it. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well noted, that vision paper. Thank you all panelists for your insightful perspectives, for being here, and everybody who joined us. So like I said, this roundtable and the two others we've had at just the beginning. On the 19th, we'll host our full summit, where we'll delve deeper into the themes that we've discussed, right? So keep an eye out on our social media platforms and our website. And we look forward to continuing the conversation with you. For now, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.